emphasize that use of mother tongue in the mother tongue education, using the mother tongue in higher education, how these languages should be given much importance in school and curriculum activities. On 16th of July, the Ministry of Education has conducted a program which has given a training to school teachers. Around 50,000 school teachers were given training on innovation ambassador training program. In the National Education Policy 2020 also, the Government of India has taken many initiatives to implement mother tongue as a medium of instruction or the subject of instruction. In the case of classical languages also, it has given emphasis that classical languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Odia, Pali, Persian, and Prakrit will also be available to the school children as an optional subject. But when you talk about the languages which has been protected by the Constitution of India, so we have a well-developed scripts, you have well-developed material. So importing education in their mother tongue is not at all a big problem for us. Because in our day before yesterday, 11 higher educations, institutions, they have given, agreed to give the higher education in respective mother tongues. 11 4 states from 11 technical institutions, they are ready to offer their higher education, engineering in their mother tongue. But when you talk about lesser known languages or tribal languages, we don't have any scripts, first of all. So we should take a lot of care while creating scripts. Just I give one or two examples how complex the material development, script development and materials. If you take a Gond Dravidian words, it comes under a central Dravidian group, highly concentrated in the area of Telangana, Maharashtra, and Chhattisgarh. As a policy matter, when you develop a script to any minority or tribal languages, the languages used in that area are predominantly used, or the language which has been recognized by the Constitution, that language script should be possibly used. But in this case of, you would take the Gond tribes, which we have political boundaries and cultural boundaries. In cultural boundaries, Gond Dravidian tribe, there is no separation in their cultural boundaries. When you talk about political boundaries, they distribute majorly in Telangana and Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh. So while developing the scripts, in the case of Telangana, it should be Telugu script. In Maharashtra, Marathi, and Chhattisgarh, it may be Devanagari. So much complex material. The subject in which this lecture is going to be delivered. In early 2000, I think 2004, when the NCRT conducted a meeting on mother tongue as a medium of instruction, and I was in a previous department and I was part of that. The former director, Rajesh Sachdeva, was chairing the session. In Dravidian, again, I am giving a Dravidian tribe example. If you take Toda community in Nilgiri Hills. So when the material is developed, we should be very overcautious. On trial basis, they have developed a material and it was taught to the Toda tribal children. But very next day, it was a very big cultural conflict has taken place. Because in the school, the children were taught cow is the sacred animal. So the children went to their home and they talked to the parents, buffalo is not a sacred animal. So immediately the parents, they told that need not to go to the school. So the topic which Professor Abdeshkumar Mishra is going to handle is such a complicated and need of the hour. I need not to give much introduction to Professor Avdesh Kumar Mishra. I'll start with my personal note. Foundation Day, in a bit of way, it's a family affair. I'm standing before you. One of the reasons is Professor Avdesh Kumar Mishra. During his time, the post of deputy director was created and was referred to the ministry and was advertised by the Union Public Service Commission. So I'm thanking you, sir, for that personally, and I'm welcoming you for this speech. Just a brief introduction about Professor Abdesh Kumar Mishra. Uh, at present, he is in Shillong, in the Department of Linguistics, Foreign Language University Shillong is there, and he is a visiting professor in many foreign universities, and he knows many languages. He has a proficiency certificate in many languages, including Tamil. So sometimes we used to utter me few words in Tamil. So it's Arabic, German, and Persian, Russian, Tamil, and Urdu. And he's a visiting professor in many foreign universities. And he has more than 15 books to his credit, so many articles. And he's an active member in the Ministry of Education in taking more language policy matters. I'm welcoming you, sir. The next, I have my gratitude to the presidential address by the Professor D.G. Rao. Same way how Avdesh Kumar Mishra is close to as a family. I mean, because everyone's career development is much bigger. So I joined during the time of Professor D.G. Rao. He was a director in charge. He has been associated himself with RIE, Regional Institute of Education. The this special lecture and the president who's going to preside over the function, it has a very good relationship because the Regional Institute of Education, through their model demonstration schools, all the policies which has been developed by the government of India are tested. Wherever it requires, it make changes. There, Professor D.G. Rao he has contributed more than 30 years of service in different RIEs. As a director of Central Institute of Indian Languages, he has done so many things to the Central Institute of Indian Languages. I say few things, and I welcome him to this inaugural day. During this period, the UTRC Solan, the land were procured. Sir, now the construction is going on. It amounts 7.56 crores. Because why I say this, we talked about intellectual excellence, how the projects, how the Central Institute of Indian Languages doing the linguistic and language research to the higher side. But do that, you need a proper infrastructure. How the Central Institute of Indian Languages from the earlier days started it from the University of Mysuru, then it has occurred the land from Mysuru and constructed a CAL building. So this has been started going on developing further. During this period, two classical language centers were established. And in Solan also, we have the construction is expected to be completed in December 2021. And renovation of CAL washrooms and toilets. It cost about 2 crores have been spent and it has been renovated. So his part in developing the infrastructure is highly commendable, and we are so grateful to you, sir. Academically and administratively, you are an apt person to give a presidential address on this 53rd Foundation Day celebration. So with this, I am welcoming both the speaker and the presidential in Professor D.J. Rao and Professor Abdeshkumar Mishra for this third day of Foundation Day lecture. I request all of you to stay safe and follow the protocols prescribed by the Government of India to fight against COVID, and we can win. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Professor Dharmesh Fernandez, sir, for the warm welcome address and the updates which take place recent past. Today, we are very fortunate and happy to have with us our former director of Central Institute of Indian Languages, a great and well-known linguist, Professor Abdeshkumar Mishra, the English and Foreign Language University, Shillong. He will be delivering a lecture on the topic Languages in School Education, Issues and Challenges. Now, I would like to invite Professor Mishra to take over. Sir, please take your time.
Thank you. Thank you for such a nice introduction, Professor Dharmesh. And I'm very happy to be here on this day when the CIL is celebrating its 53rd Foundation Day. And as they mentioned, I have experience of working with various universities and also NCERT for about 4.5 years at RIE Shillong. So that kind of makes me a little better in understanding the situation that we have in terms of, say, languages in education, especially at the school level. Before going into the further details, I should tell you that I don't have a PPT presentation because so much of data was there, number one. And second thing that we need to actually, I cannot give, say, foolproof plan or blueprint of what needs to be done, and that can be translated into practice. But whatever I am going to talk about will certainly make us more aware and also educated in understanding what situation we have at present and what needs to be done. So I have taken up the few major say areas. One is that we'll talk about how NEP 2020 talks about mother tongue, and also at the same time home language, local language, regional language. And then we have a situation where many of the tribal languages are there in school education as subject of instruction, and also some of them like Khasi, Garo, Mar, Mizo, they are also Tangkhul. They are also used as medium of instruction. So I'll also highlight that we have to understand the difference between teaching a language as a second language and using a language as the medium of instruction, which is the main concern of the NEP 2020, and also the institutions like NCERT, CIL, and SCRTs, DIETs, and various universities to see to it that the guidelines that have been provided in NEP 2020, the commitments that have been highlighted in NEP 2020, we can fulfill that and bring those things into practice and do justice to the language situation and to the people of India. And the third thing that I'll highlight is that first we have to understand that how many languages and mother tongues are there, and which of them we have to select to be used in schools as medium of instruction, and then the script and orthography related problem. And next will be the textbooks, what needs to be done for development of the textbooks for various subjects other than the languages as subjects. And lastly, I would talk about teacher training and how we have to involve the stakeholders, essentially the parents, those who will be sending their children to be educated through the languages and mother tongues that they speak at home. So these will be the broad areas that I'll be touching upon. Number one, that we have already had many discussions, and we are aware that the NEP 2020 has reaffirmed, it has re-emphasized two things among others. One is that the medium of instruction should be the home language slash mother tongue slash local language slash regional language from class 3 onwards or up to class 5, preferably till grade 8, and also that the three language formula will be implemented in letter and spirit. So these are the two things. And many of us see we have had NCF 2005, and prior to that we had 1986 National Education Policy, and they all have said these things. But what is new in NEP 2020 is that there is something visible, and that is the commitment. The commitment to implement these things. See, we had in our constitution said that the mother tongue will be used in primary classes. That will be all efforts should be made. But in past so many 40 or 50 years after 1961, we could not implement it. So they have touched upon this thing that these two are connected. When you say that the mother tongues or languages as medium of instruction, and many of them, not just few, the scheduled languages and English and Hindi, the official languages of the Union. We should include more and more languages. No one should be left out. We have to educate each and every child and make them good citizens of India. And second that they have highlighted is that the three language formula actually is connected to the previous thing, that is using more and more languages and mother tongues as medium of instruction. And if we had followed these two things as it was given in 1960s, we would have been in a better position. So it looks like that as if we're going to start it afresh, because the previous regimes, including the state governments and the union, you know that education is in the concurrent list, so both have to work together. So that was neglected, and that's why we have to do so many things which are completely, they will appear to be new, although the policies were there. So now to understand what actually is the ground reality and how we move from there to implement these two things. So number one, when we say that look at the Indian situation, we have multicultural and multilingual societies. And within languages also, we have so many dichotomies like language and mother tongue, language and regional language, language and local language, home language and local language, non-scheduled language and scheduled languages, and so on. Now, what happens that as of now, according to 2011 census, we have about 1,369 mother tongues, which include some 100 foreign mother tongues. And if we exclude that, then we are left with about 1,269 or 1,265 languages and mother tongues and so on. Another thing that we have to understand when we talk about putting more and more languages in school education or in any other domain, official language, etc. This is very clearly mentioned in the census that they do not give a judgment on what is language and what is mother tongue. And after 1951, they didn't even talk about dialects. In 1951, the terms were used synonymously, like language oblique dialect. And this is how we had 764 or 768 languages oblique dialects in the 1951 census. Then we had 1652 mother tongues in 1961 census, and there also they did not try to say what is language and what is dialect and what is mother tongue. But what we can gather from the census data is that the raw data is collected, and we have say 19,000 or 20,000 mother tongue, and then the linguists and other people, anthropologists, they sit together and they narrow it down to, or they regroup them, reclassify them, and then this is how we arrive at say 1,369 mother tongues in 2011, 1,635 in 2001 census, and so on. So this is what we need to keep in mind, that all languages start as mother tongue, and mother tongues can be dialects and dialects can be mother tongues. So the languages that are spoken at home primarily, they begin from there. So they, in that way, all languages are mother tongues, but all mother tongues are not languages, because language being a socio-political construct, an abstract construct, various other things come into play. So like in Hindi, if we have say 49 odd mother tongues, or in Bangla we have say 4 mother tongues, out of that one will be considered as language. It may be standard or non-standard. For in many cases we don't have even enough number of speakers, but the language is called something like Rongmai and Kabui. Practically there is no difference. They are mutually intelligible, and some phonological and lexical differences are there, but Kabui will be the language. Malto doesn't exist actually as mother tongue. It spoke, very few people claim that it is their mother tongue. They call their languages Malpaharia or Maler and so on, but the language will be Malto, because this is how the system that we have had beginning from 1881, and people's aspirations that they should be addressed as Malto. So Malto is language, but Malto you will not find as a mother tongue within Malto language. You can have others. The same thing is true for Landa. Landa will have various mother tongues, but the language will be Landa. In Bangla, we'll have Rajbangshi, or say Hajong and Chakma, but Bengali will be the language. In Hindi, in 49 mother tongues, Abdi, Braj, Bhojpuri, Chhattisgarhi, Ladia, Banjari, Lamani, Lombardi, etc. Then say Kyothali, etc. will have it. And Hindi is one of the mother tongues, and then Hindi is also a language. So this is how what people attach themselves to, that socio-political abstract construct that will be the language. So it is necessary for us, as NEP has rightly done, that we keep these terms: language, home language, so language, and mother tongue, then local language and regional language. We also have to understand, as I said, that all languages are mother tongues, but all mother tongues are not languages. And so similarly, we have the distinction between local language and regional language. Local language is a mother tongue that is that may be a language sociopolitically, but because it has not been granted the status of non-scheduled languages, because it doesn't have more than 10,000 speakers, and various other regions not recognized by the state and so on. So a local language, like I would say, for example, Khoibu in Manipur, or let's say Tarao in Manipur, or you can have Karmali in Jharkhand, you can have Mali in Jharkhand, you can have Lodhi in Odisha and West Bengal. So these are the local languages. That means they are restricted to a very limited geographical area. And if that local language or mother tongue is spoken at a larger in a larger area, then we consider them as regional language. But these are not technical terms. They are not official terms actually. But this is how we have to, we need to understand that these are the distinctions which are important in guiding us what can be done. So for example, in Tamil Nadu, Tamil is the regional language, and we also have Telugu speakers, lakhs of them. And in Karnataka, we have lots of Tamil speakers there, and even Telugu speakers. But you'll find that Telugu and Tamil in Karnataka will be restricted to a very limited area. Toda will be restricted to a very limited area. Kurumba will be restricted to a very limited area. So local language that way, and regional language, the state or a bigger region. Then we have Kannada in Karnataka, Tulu, for example, in Karnataka is the local language, and regional also at the same time, but smaller than Kannada, and so on. So these distinctions are there. Then another thing, when we talk about identification and selection of languages or mother tongues, which should go in the school education as a medium of instruction, we have to keep in mind that not all the mother tongues, whether 1652 in 1961 or 1369 in 2011 census, they are not spoken by more than 10,000 persons, as I already mentioned, and many of them, and I have counted them physically, I have the chart, but I cannot show you at the moment, but I know that you can have access to 1961 census, and since the data for 2011 or 2001 data for mother tongue spoken by fewer than 10,000 persons, I know the names, I do not know the exact numbers, but whichever are not there in 272, they are spoken by less than 10,000 persons, and many are unclassified. We do not know whether they belong to Dravidian or Indo-Aryan, or they may be scattered in many different areas like Hakipiki or Kaikadi. We know that there are some Kaikadi variety speakers of Tamil located in Maharashtra, or Vadari, that of Telugu also located in Maharashtra and other areas, so forth and so on. But if you look at the 1961 data also, you'll find that there are at least about 400 mother tongues, of which about 300 are spoken by only one person. Now, see, for linguists, it can be that even if we have one speaker or two speakers, that we can consider a language, no harm in that. But when we go about converting something into a policy, then these things become important. So if there was only one speaker for a particular mother tongue, except say 4 or 5, which were lucky that from a few they could develop into bigger languages. For example, as I remember, as of now, we had only 18 speakers of Sambalpuri, and that too in Bihar alone, in no other state. So Sambalpuri from 18 spoken in Bihar, now they have in 2011 census more than about 25 or 26 lakh, and mostly they're located in Odisha. Similarly, we had only 3 mother tongue speakers of Kokborak in Tripura. So Riang or Tripuri or Tripura was the language, and only 3 persons claimed that they speak Kokborak, the language of the people, literally it means. So from 3, they have gone to more than 8 lakh speakers and Kokborok. So this is actually realignment. The mother tongues and dialects, they realign themselves. They reattach, to other languages, or to which they consider that they belong to that language, as it happened in the case of Nagaland and Manipur. See, we had many Naga languages located both in Nagaland and Manipur. Like Zeliang, the new name, which occurs in census also, but Zeliang actually, the linguists know that it is abbreviation and an acronym combined with 3 syllables from 3 languages. So Zemi, Liang Mei. So Zeliang Rong is also there. Zeliang is short, so Zeliang Rong. So Zemi, Liang Mei, and Rong Mei, because they identified that they came from the same source, and they have so much similarity. Even mutual intelligibility is also very high. So this is how the realignments take place. So you'll find that now within Tripuri, which is just a name, a group of mother tongues. It's not a language actually, but then Tripuri was given some 100 years back, and so Kokborok is more than 8 lakh persons, and Riang, which used to be the bigger mother tongue 2 decades ago, and Jamatia, Noatia, they are mutually intelligible. These mother tongues, they understand each other very well. So they grouped themselves together. Similarly, in Halam, which is there in school education, you'll find that many varieties and mother tongues are there. So, but they consider themselves to be Halam. And so 11 mother tongues or varieties are there, but then they associate themselves. And later on, due to socio-political aspirations and languages being not connected to employment and other opportunities, they group together, or sometimes they also deviate, they break away from the parent source, as it happened in Arunachal Pradesh, where we had, say, Nokte, Wancho, and Tangsa, and so now they diverged until just about 70, 80 years ago. There were not three languages. Similarly, you'll find that just about 100 or 25 years ago, the languages like Paite, Vaifei, Thado, or Ralte, they were not separate. But the socio-political aspirations that led to their being separated. If you look at the structure internally, like Paite, Vaifei, Tarao, I'm sorry, Ralte, Thado, Simte, Gangte, they are all similar. Vaifei and Paite, more than 95% mutual intelligibility is there. So this happens. So in census, we have about 600 mother tongues, even now, after 2011, which are spoken by only persons 1 to 10, not more than 10 persons. And many of them are names of certain communities, regions, castes, like we'll have Mushar, we'll have Dusad, we'll have Dom, we'll have Teli, we have even surnames like Marak or Sangma for the Garo, and even the region like Bangalore, Muzaffarpuria, Darbhanga, and so on. So if we narrow it down to exclude these, then what I have analyzed in past few years, 2-3 years, and I have come down to about say only. Similarly, you can find that Adi in Arunachal Pradesh area, that is a good example, where we have at least about 18-20 varieties, and some of them are spoken by fewer number of persons, like Tangam. In 2001, we had about 350 speakers of Tangam variety of Adi, but in 2011 census, we have only 7. And they also have a school in the hilltop where these people are located. And there are only 16 or 18 students in that school, and the medium of instruction is Hindi. Now, so out of these 20 varieties like Pasi, Ramo, Simong, Tangam, Minyong, Pailibo, Pangi, Milang, Libo, Konkar, Chomua, Bori, Bokar, Bagi, Ashing, etc., we'll find that people associate themselves with the regions, small regions, or even sub-tribes or clans also. So that way, that's how we have so many languages and mother tongues in census reports. But actually, if you narrow it down, then as far as the school education is concerned, we'll find that not more than 350 should go into the school education as a medium of instruction. So like when we know that Padam is the standard variety of Adi, and we also know that all Libo, Komkar, or Bagi, Bokar, Ashing, they all speak a variety of some differences will be there, which is common for India or any other region. That only 2 or 3 villages may differ lexically and phonologically, as we see in the case of Khasi, where we have at least 30 varieties. So some small group of villages will speak one variety and the other village, but they all associate themselves with Khasi. Same is true for Panar or Jaintia. We have different villages will have some differences. Same is true for Manipuri. You can have Karkul, you can have Andhro, you can have Sangmai, and so on. Or Pangal, the Manipuri is spoken by the Muslim. Some differences will be there. So is true for Maithili, Bhojpuri, Bangla, for each and every language. Kom, Thadu, Mizo, every language you'll find, including Tamil, Telugu, bigger languages like that. So we can narrow it down to about 350. So I personally feel, and have justification for that, that we did not go, when we talk about that we should bring languages and mother tongues into school education, then let's not go by the names that are given by the people in census, because census faithfully records what people say. If someone says that I speak Marak, which is a surname, or Sanma, or they say that they live in Muzaffarpur, and three persons say that I speak Muzaffarpuria, or someone says that okay, I live in Bangalore, so my mother tongue is Bangalore. No harm in that. This is how, because people are not linguists, or they are not experts. And actually, historically, we know that language people themselves do not give names to their language. They just speak. They speak a bhasha, bhak, speech, language. They do not give names. Others give names to that. Until recently, we had the tradition. Now people are identifying themselves with the identities in terms of tribes or clans, etc., subclans and sub-tribes, and even religion like Balti and Purki. So we'll have two varieties of the same language, Ladakhi. So Janskar region and Balti uses the Perso-Arabic script and more Arabic Persian words, and mostly used by the Muslims. So they'll have one name. And Purki will have, or Purik will have a different name, and so on. That is there. So we can narrow it down to about 350. And also another important thing is that why I say that we should not go by the names of the mother tongues or languages that are given by the people as reflected in the census. If you look at the data, census publishes the data on the mother tongues of each and every tribe. And we have about 650 odd tribes. And for each of them, you'll find that which mother tongues actually they speak. So in the census, you'll find that 1,369, including foreign mother tongues are there, but they'll be speaking actually different mother tongues. Name will be one, but they'll be speaking some other mother tongue. For example, I'll just quote a few. Look at Apatani, and it has grammar, it has dictionary, and very important language in Arunachal Pradesh. But if you look at what the Apatanis, the 20,834 Apatanis, what they actually speak as mother tongue, then we find that 57 speak Adi, that is the Padam variety, 127 speak Hindi, 20,571 out of 20,834, they speak, they claim that they speak mother tongue Nisi/Dafla, and 10 speak Tangsa, and only 33 speak others, which maybe say some Na or Bangni or maybe Tangam like that, so small varieties. Look at Bathuri in Odisha. We have 2,17,395 speakers according to the census and even the ethnic population. But if you look at the actual mother tongues that are used by the Bathuri tribe, so what actually they are using? 76 are using Ho, 18 Mundari, and 2,16,777 Odia, 246 Santali, 15 Saura, and only 35 others. Look at language or mother tongue in Andhra, Chenchu, Andhra, and also some areas in Karnataka, etc. So 65,181. Out of them, 63,772 use Telugu, 327 Hindi, 634 Kannada, 37 Marathi, 218 Odia, 46 Tamil, 55 Urdu, and not even one claim that they speak Chenchu. So it's a notion that language abstract socio-political notion. And when it comes to identifying themselves with a language, then they'll say that we are Chenchus. Linguists know that there are differences between, say, the Chenchu and the standard Telugu or some other languages, considerable difference. They may not be even more than 85 or 90% mutually intelligible. That we know. For this is what actually we have on the ground. Look at language like Kunbi in 60,646. Gujarati, they use 18,398 speak Gujarati, 41,269 speak Marathi, Khandeshi, I'm sorry, Khandeshi, Konkani 14, Marathi 812, Vili 137, and others. That means it may be Kunbi or some other variety of other language, only one. We have another language, mother tongue both, called 12 speak Pradhan, but in reality, like 1,40,955 of them speak in reality Marathi, out of 1,45,131. We have a language called, say, Sulung, again in Arunachal Pradesh, and not even one speak the Sulung variety. The others say that, oh, so tribe is different and mother tongue is different. But when it comes to census, they do mention and they do not know that actually what they're speaking. So in reality, two of them are speaking out of 4,519. Two speak Assamese, 3 Hindi, 9 Adi, 845 Bhotia, 110 Nisi, and 3,514 claim that they speak Rai, which is considered to be a language spoken in Sikkim, and 25 spoke Tibetan. Tarao, which is an endangered language, threatened, and so on, 1,066, but others only 3. So the Tarao variety of, I would say, Thado, which is Thado cookie, only 3 claim that. Yanadi, we have a language, 5,37,808. Out of that, you'll find that 5,31,588 speak Telugu in reality, and the rest of them speak Kannada, Marathi, Odia 73, Tamil 5,576, and others only 11. So these things we have to keep in mind when we go for selecting or identifying the language and mother tongue, which can be used as medium of instruction. But the bottom line is that you cannot forget people's aspirations and desires, what they want. If something is claimed to be a language, and people want that their children should be educated through that mother tongue, even if it is spoken by only 900 persons, we should not ignore that particular language or mother tongue. That should be included. So there we need now these organizations. See, great responsibility lies on the organizations that are working in this area, and primarily the Central Institute of Indian Languages, because they were supposed to take care of the languages other than English, Hindi, foreign languages, and Sanskrit. So the bigger responsibility is on that. And as I mentioned 2 days ago, that most of the work were done at CIL during the time of directorship of Professor D.P. Patnaik. After that, it slowed down. And of course, a lot of work during Omkarnath Kaul and Annamalai Ramaswamy's time. Many things were done. But after that, kind of, we deviated. And what do we lack today is we do not know that what are the actual mother tongues used by, because not all languages are used by the tribal population. There are languages which can be used by tribal and non-tribal alike. So we do not know the reality actually, and what is the proficiency level, and also what is the attitude of those people. So these things are very important. But who will tell us? Simply saying that many mother tongues should be there as a medium of instruction, but how do we know? So numbers we can know, but the actual reality will be known when institutes like CIL and also supported by the SCRTs and DIETs and the tribal research institutes in different states, they work together and they have to do it fast. We cannot wait for these things to happen in next, say, decade or 2 decades after. This is the time when we should have it, and it's not difficult for an institute like CIL because they know how to collect the data and how to approach people and other organizations and get it done within a matter of few months or at the most a year. So that is what is needed to be done. Another problem issue that is related to, if we put 350 odd mother tongues in the school education as medium of instruction, then as Dharmesh hinted at, that problem of script comes. See, this also is a misconception. That's a myth. If you understand the reality of the scripts in India, then we'll find that this is not an issue. This issue has been created by certain motivated groups who may have some hidden agenda and so on. See, when the CIL was established in 1969, one of the various things that were given in its mandate, that what they are supposed to do, one was that, and they clearly mentioned that organizations like Summer Institute of Linguistics, SIL, and others, they are trying to impose the Roman script for all the languages of India, and CIL will see to it that these languages, as much as possible, as far as possible, try to have Devanagari as the script or the regional, local, indigenous scripts for them. But see, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we had everything in place starting from 1961 and up to say mostly up to 1970, and then the NP in 1986 and NCF, etc. But we kind of forgot everything. This was the mandate, and I remember only one or two persons like Professor D.P. Patnaik were really faithful, and they saw to it that these things happen. And even Ayush Deva, for some time, he tried to work on the script for the Saurashtri mother tongue, people who are there in Tamil Nadu and other areas, and they succeeded quite a bit. Professor D.P. Patnaik was very successful in having the Devanagari script for the Bodo language when that was considered to go into the 8th schedule, and people did not know, the Bodo speakers, that which script to use, and it was only one person, Professor D.P. Patnaik, that he went to them and talked to them and convinced them quite logically, rationally, without being biased, and they had it. But what we missed is that what the mandate that was given in 1969 with the establishment of CIL, that we have to look for our scripts. And we try to either Devanagari, because see, most of the scripts, the indigenous scripts that we have in India, they developed one way or the other from Brahmi or Kharoshti via Grantha and Assamese, Bangla, Odia through, and some variations are there. So that was the reason that we thought that Devanagari would be there. And as Professor Agnihotri, yesterday also he talked, and I have heard him in past 15, 60 years, all the time, everywhere he emphasizes this thing, that there is no one-to-one relationship between a language and the script, and many languages can use one script and vice versa, with so many examples and convincing reasons, but people do not listen to that. Why? Because there are certain forces, as I hinted at, as mentioned in 1969 mandate for the establishment of CIL. So what has happened? We missed that. Now, if you look at 117 or 18 languages as of now, they are used as subjects of instruction. And out of that, so other than these 22 scheduled languages and English, the rest are, you'll find that, and Bhojpuri, so I would say that about 27 or 28, other than that, all are tribal or minor languages in India. So they are already there in place. And most of them are located in Sikkim. We have 11. In Manipur, we have 17 used as a subject of instruction. And we have 17 in Nagaland and so on. So you'll find that most of them are located in Mizoram. We have 4. So that way, most of them are the tribal and indigenous languages, so-called minor languages. Now, they all already have it. The scripts, they already have it. So although in out of 11 mother tongues in Sikkim, you'll find that they all have their own scripts. So say Loig or Rong is used for Lepcha. Shijunga is used for Limbu, Tamu is used for say Tamang, and so on. Newari has separate script, Sunwar has separate script. I have counted it and I have examples. If you want me, I can tell you. I have a separate list on my computer. Anyway, so what has happened actually? Then there are 35 languages which are used as medium of instruction. And then you will see that at the moment you say that, say, Bangla is the indigenous script, and that is used by Chakma, Rajbangshi, and Hajong. So if Hajong goes to medium of instruction as medium of instruction, or Chakma is used, which is already used in some schools in Mizoram, or or say Rajbangshi is made medium of instruction, and so they can go to the Bangla script. Similarly, there are Hindi related mother tongues. So Bhojpuri, Maghi, Chhattisgarhi, Ladia, or Lambadi, Lamani, or Surjapuri, then Avdhi, Bagheli, Bundelkhandi, etc. They all can use the Devanagari script instead of creating a new script. Similarly, if you look at the tribal languages of Jharkhand, so what is happening? For decades, they have been using informally Devanagari script, and later on, as it is also associated with the identity, so some languages had new scripts for them. Again, the indigenous, and that is accepted by all. Like Olchiki we have for Santali, or Tolongsiki for Kurukh or Urao. And similarly in Odisha, we have Soran Sompeng for Sora. But the other languages, like in Odisha, the Kui, Kubi, and many other like Gata or Didai, etc., they have been using informally in the schools and other places. They can see Odia script written. So there's no harm in adopting the Odia script, which is readily available, and they'll see that script being used in various other domains other than the school education. So we have the clusters, the pockets, where the languages and mother tongue, they will be related. So you select that according to the desires of the people and how they associate a mother tongue themselves with a particular mother tongue, and the scripts also form clusters. So all these 49 mother tongues under Hindi, many of them can be language in their own right as mately separated. So, but still, when it comes to mother tongue being used as medium of instruction in school, these 49 mother tongues under Hindi, Avdi, Brajbhasha, Bagheli, etc., they can easily use the Devanagari script. And now that the Roman script is already there for so many decades in India, and about all the languages of, say, Northeast, excluding, say, we have Liktai for Singpho, and Monpa, Tibetan for Monpa. So scattered some 5 or 6 scripts. Others are using the Roman script. So they can go to Roman. Why you create a new script? When we know, and they have been using it for centuries, informally or formally, then why create a new script? And these new scripts, you will see that there are at least 50 to 60 new scripts created, and mostly by just one person, someone called Prasanna, Professor Prasanna in Andhra Pradesh or somewhere. And I have analyzed them very carefully. So what this person has done, say for Gondi or for Toda, they will, that person or the group, they have taken some symbols from Assamese, some from Bangla, some from Tamil, and various combinations and permutations of those letters, those symbols, and create a new script. That can be done. You can produce hundreds in a day, but we have to think from the point of view of the children who are going to use it, not from the point of view of the adults only to write literature, novels, and other things. So not for that. You think from the point of view of the children who, as we know, the rate of multilingualism is so high in India. And even in the case of tribal languages, the minor languages, they're highly bilingual or multilingual, 2 or more than 2 languages. Sometimes it goes as high as 85%, 87%, and only 5 or 6 languages are below the national average of 26%. The rest, beginning from say Garo and Khasi, we have more than 27%, as high as 85, 87%. Similarly, in trilingualism, the national average is 7, and only beginning from Khasi and Garo, the rest of the languages have much higher percentage of trilingualism. So given that, that means that children also know many languages. And when they know many languages and they're going to school, they must be seeing different scripts, or they may be using some scripts, either Roman or Devanagari, English, Hindi, or if it is even Nepali in, say, Sikkim, then they're using the Devanagari script. In Andhra, even though we have so many mother tongues, some 7 or 8 used as the subject of instruction, they're already using the Telugu script. In Odisha, we have 20 odd languages and mother tongues used at some level of school education, class 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4. Some 20 odd languages are there, mother tongues are there, and they have been using it, reading things in Oriya script. So why create a new script and put a burden on them? And that, see, it has repercussions. Once you select a new script, then what happens? Various other things related to it, like the textbook, the teacher training, the audio-visual programs, so many other things also get affected. And I'll give you one example. Like it happened in the case of Manipuri, a scheduled language. They chose to use Meitei Mayek. Nothing wrong in that. They should have done it 200 years ago instead of using a Roman or Bangla script. So anyway, when it came there to be used, the libraries were burnt and new books have to be created, materials have to be created, and it's taking so long. You won't find now that some training is being given students how to learn Meitei Mayek, but starting everything afresh, anew, and create this corpus is going to be a difficult task. But then we also have example where of Santali. They chose to use the Old Cheki. Now see, the Santali speakers in Odisha, they have not implemented it. They don't like it because it's so difficult. So it will, like Meitei Mayek, it will take many decades for everyone to become fluent in that script and have materials in either Old Chiki or Meitei Mayek. So that's why people get disinterested and think from the point of view of children. They have to learn Roman for English, they have to learn Hindi or some other script maybe in some states, like 2 scripts already. And then you add a third one, and we are talking about the primary education mainly, or the elementary education, class 1 to 8. So for them, and when it comes to putting these languages as second languages, now see, they have to learn the language to become proficient in that, and also read and write that new language. So they have not become proficient given the situation that prevails in India, and now they have to learn. So a new language to be learned, third or fourth, and third or fourth script has to be learned. So that is going to make it difficult. So we already have 120 odd mother tongues used as the subject of instruction, 35 languages used as medium instruction, and at least 33 scripts in use in all the states and union territories of India. So why we need to add, say, 250 more scripts? That is not possible for humans, and not certainly for the children that they go to school in class 1 and then they have to learn something. So that way it can be solved. I can provide when the full paper is submitted. I'll give you the chart and list there, that what are the scripts and which mother tongues are related, and they can use, as I've already given some examples. Now, another important factor is going to be that of the teaching material. Now, subject of instruction is, just a minute, some phone call. So subject of instruction is different. Having teaching learning material for a second language is different, and for medium instruction is different. And as you know, the state of teacher education in our country is such that only the scheduled languages, and especially the official language, English and Hindi, and some bigger regional languages are given importance in teacher training programs. So only those languages are there, and they don't even know properly that the L1 teaching is different from the L2 teaching, or teaching different subjects through a particular language is different. So teacher training has to be very strengthened. And one fear that people have, as Dharmesh mentioned, that in 2004-5 we had a big say conference at CIL during Rajesh Sachdeva's time, and there also this thing came up, and this was agreed upon, that teachers see, people have unnecessary fear that we cannot provide teachers for 350 languages as medium of instruction. We already have certain number of teachers who, like, see, what is the situation for 120 subject of instruction? We have teachers for that. Like Vishnupriya, some 35, 36 are there in Tripura. We have about 700 odd teachers for Kokborok and so on. So for different, like for Nevari and Sunwar, we have 5 and 8 teachers in Sikkim. So they have taken care of. And what is also happening, that the teachers who teach other subjects, so like Nepali or Telugu or Tamil, if a particular mother tongue is taught as second language, then those teachers teach the second languages. So we don't have to find n number of teachers afresh. We don't have to appoint thousands of teachers. The same teachers can do the work. So if in Nagaland, you know that how teachers, the English teachers whose mother tongue is say Ao, they are there teaching English, and there are some teachers who also teach Hindi. So what will happen? These same teachers can, if Ao is used as medium of instruction, then same teachers can teach the Ao as medium of instruction, and then it is a known fact. And as I mentioned, few names like Professor Agnihotri, D.P. Patnaik, and others that, and also we had NCF 2005. This has been emphasized time and again that every teacher is a language teacher. In yesterday, Professor Agnihotri mentioned that once a person has proficiency in a particular language, that means a student can use that language on her in reading, writing on new topics, talking about new topics. Then when it comes to subject, say EVS or math, then that knowledge can be easily used. So that way, that is not going to be a problem. So teacher and teaching material. Now teaching material is going to be a problem, because we have been seeing in past few decades that everything has to come from the center, from the top to bottom. So we have a textbook created in, say, English or Hindi or Tamil or Telugu or Bangla, then same will be translated in all the other languages when they are used in subject of instruction or medium of instruction. So that has to stop. We have to think from the viewpoint of the particular mother tongue, as Dharmesh hinted at, citing the example of Toda. So we also assumed this was given to us in past few decades prior to say 2011-12 or so, that language and culture are unrelated. We talked about it in all documents, in at all forums, but in practice we did not implement it. If you look at the syllabus of Hindi or English, you'll find that they think that everything has to be say the mainstream. So one text will suit all, but we have so many cultures, not subcultures. We have the cultures. There is no one main culture or mainland culture or the mainstream of culture in India. We have so many mainstreams in terms of culture as in terms of languages. So you cannot have one fits all kind of textbook. So we need to do it in isolation. That means taking care of a particular mother tongue. And again, the CIL's role becomes bigger in collaboration with the NCRT and SCRT and the diets, because they know, the states know what actual situation is. Like Tripura will tell you, the Tribal Research Institute or the SCRT, that Riang, Jamatia, Noatia, they don't have any problem. The mutual intelligibility is there. So we can have one, and even the culture is same in these 4 different groups. So you can have one textbook for them. Similarly, you know that if you place, say, Mahli and Karmali along with Santali as a medium of instruction in classes 1 to 8, and then you prepare materials for that, you know that these are related to Santali, and they consider themselves as one cultural group. So for 3 languages or 3 mother tongues, you can have one textbook. So we have to identify the groups of languages where the culture is say connected, or they share it. Even though, and there will be some other problem, like if you know that Paite and Waifi, they belong to the same stock, they have the same origin and even language that they speak. They have 98% and above mutual intelligibility, but they identify themselves as separate group. So you can have separate textbooks for them. So these are the things that have to be considered, and the CIL and the NCRT, they have to intervene. Without their consultation, along with the states, you cannot have textbook. It's not a difficult task, but if you keep these things in mind, it can be done. And another thing that is important is that we have been trained in past few decades to work toward completing the syllabus, curriculum. What is given from top, the teachers have to do that, and teachers, what they give, the students have to do it. And we could not take care of this distinction, achievement versus proficiency. We talk about learning outcomes, but we forgot the learning levels. That means the children have to be proficient, whether it's second language or first language, to do various things, academic proficiency, not just achievement, which is tied to the textbook. So we became too much of textbook centric. Actually, we did not need for second language, a textbook is not needed. And in mother tongue, a different type of a textbook is needed. So that distinction also, even the NCRT could not do justice to that. So we have to bring in this concept that children have to be made proficient. And even if they have 3 languages, 4 languages, 5 languages, and the second language teaching is done for proficiency. That means when they complete year 1, they know what is they are supposed to be learned by them. So they are very proficient in what they were supposed to do at that level, and then they move to class 2, they complete that, they know it without tying their knowledge to achievement, that is to textbook, what actually they can do. So this thing can be incorporated within the ambit of say textbook and teacher training, and that way we can take care of that. But this is a very important aspect. Why? And this is the reason we failed even in implementing the 3-language formula, because we did not even teach English. And as you know from the ASER or Pratham reports, annual reports, that only about 40% of the children in class 3 can read the material of class 1, and class 5 students cannot read class 3 material, even in English and Hindi and other languages. Mathematics skill is also bad. So if we really work on the proficiency development, then other cognitive skills can also be strengthened, and the students will actually learn and they will enjoy it. When Professor Agnihotri already talked about that, so I need not to mention that, once they are proficient in one language, they enjoy reading in one language, they can transfer those skills to other languages. Or if they are proficient in one language, they can do various things using that language, whether it comes to EVS or maths and other subjects. I'll just take 2-3 minutes more. So another thing that is important is that when we talk about the textbook for various subjects, one problem may arise that for most of the tribal and indigenous languages, we do not have the scientific and technical terms developed. Whether it's a CIL or various SCRTs or NCRT, they all kind of focused mainly on the scheduled languages. So now is the time that the CIL, along with NCRT, because these are the two institutions which is specialized in this kind of activity, and along with CSTT, they have to work on that and find the solution to it. That means we need to develop, instead of just focusing on grammar and dictionary, which is useful, that can go along with development of scientific and technical terms, and it can be done. It's not difficult. And I'll give you a quick example, 2, 3 examples. See, we do not, at the level of class 5 or 8, we won't have very specialized physics or chemistry or maths vocabulary. The basic vocabulary, new terms can be created, and as many other languages have done, including the bigger languages, Shitu languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Assamese, Bangla, Marathi, they all have looked up to some other language. That means, like, see, Sanskrit is prevalent, and that pervades all the Indian languages except if the Burman languages. So they depended largely, like Assamese and Bangla and many other languages, on Sanskrit for developing scientific and technical terms. And where the terms were not available, they coined a new one in consultation with the people who speak that language and who are involved in the material production. And also some English terms were used, like for oxygen or nitrogen. They were kind of modified in pronunciation, and Hindi has done the same thing. We have nitrogen for nitrogen. So instead of so many such examples can be given where we simplified it. The same thing, same process can be done, and it won't take, if we do it for about 200 languages and mother tongues, at the same time involving these organizations. And now that we have to depend so much on the internet, the online activities, this has become easier. And one thing that I would mention here, people assume that such and such mother tongue doesn't have enough number of words for the reality or to express the worldview. That is not true. Each language is equally powerful, equally developed in its own way, where it is located, the culture that it is located, and the people who use it in that context. That is Thado can be, Thado is, not can be, it is, or Thado, or Koibu, or Mao, or Mizo, or Lai, or Ao, or Tenidie, or Kurokh, or Mundari. They are all equally powerful and capable of having new terms or expressing everything, including science. So I'll just quickly give, like Kurokh, people see, we when they were coining terms, books were prepared. So they have for environment. So what they did, they combined two terms, water and air. So is water and taka is air. So taka becomes environment. Similarly, they had different stars, say in natural objects describing that. So Biz is morning and Binko is star. So Biz Binko becomes the morning star, or Venus. Similarly, Mundari, you can find Chapua Ipil. Ipil is star and Chapua is the bellows of the blacksmith. So in that constellation where we have 3 stars, 3 kids there. So one of them is known as Chapua Ipil. Then Aldebaran is known as Padki Ipil. Padki is dove. It looks like dove. So Padki Ipil. We have Mugaru Ipil, the Pleiades. There Mugaru is hammer. So it looks like hammer. So Mugaru Ipil. So languages are capable of doing that. These even small mother tongue. So if they're related, they can lean on the other language which are already being used. For example, if you have medium instruction, say missing in Assam or Dimasa in Assam, so they can lean on, say, Bodo or Assamese for certain terms. And they may have the common terms and which can be used as scientific and technical terms, because words don't have fixed meaning. It is the use that gives them meaning, the connotation. So even the normal common words can be used for expressing scientific, and this is true for English and many other so-called developed languages like Hindi. Dabab. Dabab means pressure. So pressure in science is one thing, and another thing in common language, but we use the same term. We did not create a new term for that. Or tap, or see, tap is the same. Tap can be fever or heat. We use the same term. Man is there, the standard of measurement. English has done the same thing. You take small, say common words which are used in daily life and give it a different connotation. When they start being used in certain domain, they gain new meaning, scientific and technical connotations. So that way it can be done. But that is very important, and there the CIL has to take a lead. You have now NTS and NTM there, LDCIL. They can make frequency counts of which words occur frequently. When you develop a textbook, then instead of having an artificial language in the textbook, as we see in the case of mother tongue textbooks for Telugu, Marathi, Bangla, Assamese, Hindi, Gujarati, that the textbook, mother tongue textbooks is so disconnected with the common language that the children use in school. So that should not happen to these languages, because we are going to do it afresh, and so we can have the new beginning. But the CIL can really have these things. And that leads to, just 1 minute more, another thing, that these mother tongues have to be made visible. Then only the parents and the children will take interest in it. When they know that it is not going to give them any benefit, it is not going to give them opportunities for progress or employment. English is giving it the same thing to them, or Assamese or Bangla or Marathi. Why will they want their children to be educated through the media, the local languages or the mother tongue spoken at home? So we have to make it visible. When they see that it is used in various other domains, school domain is certainly one for their benefit. And so it has to be made visible. And when it is written, spoken, so audiolingual, audiovisual materials, and CIL can develop the fonts. As I remember, in Odisha, we had a big seminar where Professor Patnaik and Khageshwar Mahapatra and others were all, Panchanan Mohanty were also there. See, they just wanted to shift to Roman or create a new script. Why? Because the present Odia script did not have 3 or 4 letters which they wanted to have for their language. Kui. Certain sounds could not be transliterated well using the present Odia script. So they just wanted 3 or 4 letters of the Odia scripts modified, changed with some kind of diacritics, which are going to be used as medium of instruction. The same thing will be needed. So CIL can take a lead along with DTE, and you already have LDCIL, but that needs to be done fast. You cannot wait for so long. Instead of focusing only on the scheduled languages, you go there. And similarly, the RLCs of CIL can take up development of material, teacher training. Don't leave it to the states, because states already have crunch of fund, and education, because it's not visible. The changes or the results are not visible quickly, and language doesn't have any content. So nothing is visible in language. So states will not like to spend so much on language. So the center has to intervene, and CIL being the agency, RLCs can take up, instead of just focusing on 22 scheduled languages, we go for more and more mother tongue. And they are all related, they form clusters. So whether teaching material or training, that won't be a difficult task. And as Sujay Sarkar mentioned, that he is willing. Many of your teachers and lecturers and principals in charge, so that can be taken up. And lastly, that people's opinion have to be respected. The way we understand language, minor language, tribal language, that may be completely different from how people understand it. So that should be the primary concern. That should not be forgotten, and people have to be convinced. We have to allay, what you call it, allay the fear, about that. No, this is not going to be useful. If they're educated through mother tongue, let's say Adi or Nishi or say thing, but it's not difficult. People have to be convinced. And since we failed in past few decades to actually implement the 3 language formula, where the aim was that they do certain things in their mother tongue And along with that, beginning from class 2 or 3, they also start learning English and other second languages, 2 or 3 or 4. And by the time they are in class 8 or 9, they are proficient in these languages. And then the transition is easy, and they do not forget the use of mother tongue. So the percentage will vary. So 100% to say 30 or 40%. And this was very well emphasized and outlined. And even the reports published after the 2004 or 5 CIL conference along with UNESCO, that what should be the method and what. So all these things are there in place. It's not difficult. Only thing is that we have to be honest and fully dedicated to whatever guidelines have been given in the NEP 2020, whether it's old or new. So, and we all the stakeholders have to work together. The problem that remains is that CIL will work alone. It will not take along as it was done in the past many years, beginning the time of Professor D.P. Patnaik, that anthropology was important, psychology. So various institutes and people from different institutes would sit together and then work on it, not just linguists. You cannot work alone. So you have to involve these 3-4 organizations, institutes, and then work in tandem together so we can achieve this. It's not impossible. It's difficult because we have not done these things when we were supposed to do. So in say from 1960 to 2010, we did not implement these things properly, honestly, and now you want people to suddenly shift to something else. And there is a saying in our languages of Eastern India, especially in Maithili, that the bed bug loves the old rags, old clothes. If you give new clothes to the bed bug, it will not like it. So some kind of situation, that situation has arisen, that we are used to doing something, and now which we should have not done. We failed, we did not implement it properly. So now is the time, better late than never. We can do it, provided that all the like-minded people have to cooperate with the government, both state and the central government, and the intellectuals, the teachers and thinkers, educationists like Professor Agnihotri, Rajesh Deva, and many, just to mention a few. There are hundreds of them, and they can certainly contribute. And then CIL has to take lead in that, because you are the institute which was supposed to take care of all these things that are coming now, re-emphasized, or the guidelines that are given in NEP 2020. So that's all I had to say. Yeah. Thank you. I'm done.
Professor Mishra. Now maybe we can take some questions if there are some questions.
Yeah, sure.
Mishra, and then we can request Professor Rao to give his concluding remarks.
Okay.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience?
Someone can read it if they have given it, or if it's an oral question, no problem.
Professor Ruma, are you there? Professor Ruma?
Sir, namaskar. This is DG Rao to lead the discussion. Professor DG Rao, please. Can you lead the discussion? And I request Sujay Sarkar to read out the questions from YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, now I request this session is open. I think if you have any questions, you please come out.
Jnana Sundaram.
Yeah. Jnana Sundaram has a question.
Right.
I think
because I can't read simultaneously, YouTube and others. That's why someone has to help me. Forgive me for that. Yeah. Go ahead, Professor Jnana Sundaram.
Yeah. Please.
Unmute yourself, Professor Jnana Sundaram. Unmute yourself.
Right.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Would appreciate and congratulate really he has given a wider spectrum as far as the educational aspects of tribal and I should say that minor and other languages. He has taken the entire scenario of India, bird's eye view of what all he has experienced and what all he knew. He has well presented, I should say that. I should congratulate also
Thank you.
former director. We have benefited in one way. As a person who have practiced over a period of in CAL, what is known as tribal education, where you know very well, or many of us also know, the institute was in those days to promote what is known as bilingual education, especially for the minority speaking.
Right.
In that context, just I wanted to point out our experience. Number one, the tribes, wherever they have a towards their own language, like the tribes of, we all know very well, especially like Nagaland, and also wherever their language has been already, especially by missionaries, because of certain other reasons, those tribes really have attitude, they have good attitude towards their language, and the kind of bilingual education that we try to promote was very much successful as far as this kind of tribes are concerned.
True.
We have prepared an ample number of textbooks using the bilingual education model in Nagaland, in Andaman Nicobar Islands, especially tribes like Onge and also for Great Andamanis. So there we have prepared our primers, and also for what is known as for Cornicobaris in language, Cornica. Now the point that I'm trying to say is that in the whole country, there are tribes who have positive attitude towards their own, and our efforts are to great extent successful. They develop or because of the causal factor that their language has already been to some extent written down, especially by missionaries. To add to that, I can also say that the Mughal speakers in Lakshadweep, you know very well, they are the only, if I remember correctly, they are the Muslim population, tribes also, using what is known as their own indigenous language called Mughal.
Yeah.
To those who do not know biological model, I wanted to say that you start with their indigenous tribal mother tongue, and over a period, you try to switch over to the concerned state or union territory language, which in most cases are dominant, empowered, and also officially recognized.
True.
Okay. Also, I should also say that in this context, of Cornicobar is when we try to promote the bilingual education model, it also involves what is known as the writing down their own languages, linguistic methodology of the sound grapheme correspondence. I say that technically phoneme grapheme correspondence.
Right.
Found also that we try to promote using the model where language, as far as we know very well, the lingua franca of the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar is what is known as Hindi. Hindi, I should say that. Now, the problem started with that. Using the Devanagari script, the literacy program, in their own Cornicobar. There are so much position opposed that they do not want to budge to the Devanagari script, because Bible has already been translated in Roman
Right.
language. It happens in many of the tribal languages where the missionaries have worked.
No harm in
Totally, and they
Roman
wanted to
can
have
be used.
what one is Roman. Have to find a via media where what we have done there is, on the one hand, we have used the same lesson both in Devanagari as well as in Roman. A person wanted to study the language through Roman opportunity. Suppose they wanted to switch over to the Devanagari script, then the same lesson is also again written down in Devanagari. In that way, we just a compromise, and also we are prepared. The secondly, whenever the tribes do have a negative attitude, the negative attitude they develop because population and because of the officials, especially who handle what is known as tribal development and tribal education. I'm sorry to say that also.
Very true. You're right, sir.
In such cases, the kind of tribal bilingual education that we try to promote failed also, I should say that. This is one other thing. So in India, two kinds of tribal populations are one who have got a positive attitude because of certain external factors, and they do study through, they initiate their own indigenous mother tongue, and then they switch over to the language. This is the second one, I don't want to repeat.
Right.
We also miserably fail in preparing a Savana primer and also prepared Savana primer, but we do not know what has happened to the primer. And also we have prepared 5 primers in the Jharkhand language like Santa, Ho, Kadiya, etc., etc. The linguist and educationist, Dr. Srivastava was there. Well, as far as those primers are also concerned, I am sure that they are all shelved. They are not used. Also, I can say that we have prepared also what is known as Irula primer down south in Tamil Nadu, when the Tribal Research Center was in full function attached with the Tamil University, where the linguist known as Dr. Periyalvar, with his help, we prepared. Also, at that time, the NCRT personnel, what is known as Dr. Srivastava, came, and jointly we just prepared the primer, and that also has been shelved. There are 3 kinds of tribes in India. One is highly positive, the second one is highly negative, the third one is neutral. Neutral in the sense, as long as you wanted to educate through our method, okay, you do it. Our experience in Karnataka is that we have prepared in Soliga and also in another language using the primer. At that time, the government of Karnataka helped us. It also recognized the primers, but later on, after 3-4 years, those primers also shell down. As far as tribes are concerned, they do not have a negative attitude, rather they have a positive attitude only.
Thank you, Professor. Sorry, Professor Sundaram, I think just you can conclude your.
I do not want to elaborate. When time comes, I will repeat afterwards. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody, please?
I just wanted to ask Professor
Professor
Mishra.
Yeah.
Professor Mishra, I think I'm very happy that, when you took into this whole talk about designing language education programs and thinking deeply, you were aware of the 2 possible routes that you might end up taking through language or through the notion of tribe. And they're not always congruent. And you brought out that the so-called same tribe may be linguistically heterogeneous. And, now you also tabled the data about, say, a tribe having speakers of many other languages. Now, this listing of languages under a tribe, is it from where? What are the sources for this?
Census of India, 2011.
So you have mother tongue returns coming in different districts.
Yeah,
and then you have the tribe returns. How do you compile the 2 together?
I have done it myself in past 1 year or so for each and every.
Because that's extremely important. One knew, for instance, that the number of Gondi tribes, for example, is at least 8 times more than the Gondi speakers. Because
Right.
one thought that about 80% of the Gondi people don't speak their language; they speak other languages. But
Yeah,
which of those other languages that they speak? I mean, that also you have tabulated, which is very important.
right. See, the reality is, except for the languages of Nagaland and say Mizo, Khasi, and Garo, except for these 8 to 10 languages, the situation in other languages, because the language has to be visible and connected to progress and development. That we could not give. See, language is separate, cannot be separated from the identity, from the body. So when they see that it is of no use and only English can do that or some other major language, then naturally that will happen. So they have to use for their benefit other mother tongues. And also, secondly, that of late, what has happened, an idea has been created that every dialect is a mother tongue, is a language. That also is not true. As I mentioned in the case of Adi, now see, if the Tangam people, 16 children studying through the medium of Hindi, and they have chosen it, they could have chosen Adi. So no one forced them. They could have chosen English, but they chose Hindi for that because they thought that Hindi could lead them to some progress, social advancement. So that is the important thing. So both aspects have to be taken care of. So other than the 8, 10 languages, you'll find that a lot of shift is there. That in reality they are speaking some other.
I value people's choices, and you and I, we have all worked together, and we have seen that. But I think the choices, if they don't obtain so far in the system, then the idea of choosing doesn't really
right. So
now, for instance, in Arunachal Pradesh, I remember we had all had that important consultative meeting with the chief ministers, and all for 3 days we were locked up with all the linguistic communities, and Uday Narayan Singh and myself, we were there, and then the NCRT people were also with us. We went around going through the different areas. I remember going to this school in Zero area, and a tribal child coming out in 10th standard. And for the first time, we asked them to start writing their own language, so they said, we'll write it in English. We said, yes, go ahead and do it. They all wrote down. And then this child came up and walked up and told all of us, this is the first time we are writing our mother tongue. And you're the only people who don't want to convert us.
Right.
People, everybody else wanted to convert us. But CIL is the only one which told us that you are fine as you are. We respect you for whatever you are. And that you are capable of writing your own language. So he said a great satisfaction in writing their own language. So now the question that
you're right, sir.
One question that I want to sort of table for all of us to underscore is that language planning cannot be dissociated from the demography of tribals. So people often want to actually target tribe as a unit for planning, and they want to use language as a means for achieving the planning of tribal development, because the focus is, so the idea of language planning is not thought of by itself. The whole object of planning is the tribe.
So that's why what you emphasize is that this is the time. Now at least the government and the people, they are aware, and we are thinking of giving them the choice, the alternative. See, even though we know that 65% people are using, they want to go to English medium school English, but for that is happening, so we cannot ignore 40% people. We have to give them the choice, and it can be done. Even they can come, as the ASAR report says, that the enrollment in English medium schools has decreased in just 10 years between 2005 and 2015, and in government schools and Hindi medium and regional language medium schools, that has increased by some 3 or 4%. And then see, another important thing is there, that education cannot happen just by giving textbook and teacher. The parents have to be involved. This is for the first time, NEP 2020 has thought of that connected to the children when before they go to school, to that. Because if the mothers are educated, then the education of children will be better. And how will you educate the mothers? Not through English or bigger languages. It is to, education is not related to the knowledge contained in only English books or Hindi books. It is everywhere. And we have two good examples there, as ASA reports, that in Odisha, the situation is much better compared to the national average, where only 40% children can read the previous grade materials, the exception. So in Odisha, you find that about 50% children are so ahead of by 10%, and in West Bengal ahead by 17%, 57%. And the reason, one of the main reasons is that their mothers were educated. So when there are choices, alternatives are there, mother tongues being used, and they are made visible and connected, then what will happen? All these people will take part in that. Education cannot happen without parents. No? So this is that's why we have to keep the NCERT, because they are the people who know how to do it, the education, and along with the CIL. So if they work together, as they have done in the case of
no, but both of us, both CIL and NCERT, we both need to learn also about doing these things.
yes, because
being
that is missing. Right.
Ground
So,
zero and being with the community and working from bottom below. You can't design things just like that at a policy level so easily.
Right. They complement each other. The research and the data collection, like Gyansundaram mentioned, we do not know the attitude of people, isn't it?
Yes.
What they want. And as you mentioned, that we do not know the ground realities. We think one tribe is equal to one language, but that may not be true. So who will tell us? So CIL can tell us, isn't it? So they can do it.
I mean, there's a whole amount of work to be thought of, redesigned, reworked, and
right.
But I mean, centuries of work awaits us still.
Right. That is because we missed it. We missed the train. When if we had started this in 1960s, but then that time for the sake of convenience and also not thinking that language is important in building citizenship. And also development of people and connecting to the employment and other development opportunities that we missed. That's why. So now is the time. It's not too late for doing that. Right, sir? Very well said. Yes, sir.
Professor Rao, you have to unmute yourself. Professor Rao, unmute yourself.
Yeah. This is the last question. If anybody has, please. From audience. I hope no.
Okay.
Mishra ji, anything you can conclude about these things, the questions? I think you already, time to time you interacted.
Yeah.
I think
So no
further clarification is required. Right. Okay, Professor Murthy, can I take up now, please?
Yes, please. It's all yours.
Few questions on YouTube. Sujay, can you quickly read them if there are important questions on YouTube?
Oh, okay.
3 questions is there.
Question?
3 questions. One in Facebook, 2 in YouTube.
Yeah, please read them and Professor Mishra can answer.
Yeah.
Sir, so I am reading from YouTube. The first question is by Brojan. How effective is the present 3-language formula in school education? Your opinion, please, sir. Second question by Dinkar Prasad. Sir, second question is by Dinkar Prasad. Can we use folk rendition of language teaching along with the modern language teaching techniques?
Okay. That's all?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So first, Brojan's question, that how effective the 3-language formula, that is an open secret. So I don't have to mention it in detail, that in most of the states we failed. So some states have only 2-language formula, and then most of the states, especially Northeast, we have 4-language formula. So that is there. And see, the problem remained because the 3-4 institutions that were supposed to take care of this did not happen. And we kind of treated language as a content. Language is not equated to a subject like, say, history or sociology. So what happened? We did not focus on proficiency development. That's why what happened? People developed a mistrust that no, this is not going to work. So that way, so it did not get realized. It did not crystallize on the surface. That's why. So we miserably failed in that. But if the stakeholders, now that the government is willing to spend money and they have given freedom to these organizations to work together in consultation with the states, we can look at it freshly and make it happen in letter and in spirit as outlined in many documents. And second thing, folk, see, when I say that language and culture, this is also again there, although very briefly mentioned, but language and culture cannot be separated. And people like Sapir and others, they have said language is culture. And we can also, I can also add that culture is language. If you forget the material culture that we see, the artifacts, etc., dance, etc., also they are also related to non-material culture. But culture in terms of development of mind, the beliefs, their rituals, their faith and other things, values, that cannot come through just by having some poems, 8 poems, and disconnected with the lives of the children, and also some stories or novels related to, say, Igloo or Shakespeare, etc. That will not help children connect their language and themselves to the culture and learn values also. So folk literature, folk is very important. And I remember Professor Venkatesha Murthy's time or D.G. Rao's time or Sachdeva's time or my generation, we have seen that we had so much of, so many texts. Like I remember even in my school days, although my mother tongue was not the medium of instruction, medium was Hindi, but we had translations of some folk literature. For example, one was that a person was devoted to Lord Shiva and he thought he's doing a proper worship. And one day he is going to Rameshwaram with Gangajal. On the way, he sees a donkey, on the verge of death due to heat and temperature. So he thinks that, I have been taught that Lord Shiva is in every soul. So why not serve this donkey and save this soul? And he offers the Gangajal, which he was carrying for Shiva, to the donkey, and then Shiva appears. Things like that. We had the Aruni, stories of Aruni, Hitopadesh, etc., and even many folk tales. I don't want to narrate that. So through that, you get connected to who you are and values. Folk, see, language, written language has come very late. Only about, say, 3,500 or 4,000 years, but our oral literature has been old. So the knowledge, the worldviews, the truth, the values, the beliefs, everything that we have gained, that is located there in the oral language. So we cannot and we should not ignore the folk elements. And actually that makes audiovisual material and even reading more enjoyable if you have that, because the children can connect to it. That will be located in their culture, what they see, hear. And that is what we have missed after globalization, after 95, 96, that everything became only English, only one type of food, only one type of cloth, and so on. And that's why, so we need to have variety. And from where will you bring the variety? So the folk literature will give you the variety, food for thought and brain and mind. So that is a must to have in these languages when we think of second language or medium of instruction, etc.
Yeah.
All right.
So, sir, we have one more question from Facebook by Sivendra Sinha. What is the present position of Vishnu Priya Manipuri language of Assam, Tripura, and Manipur? Let us know whether our Vishnu Priya Manipuri language is a language or mother tongue as per your data. he also wanted to know about the language organization in this state. Vishnupriya Manipuri Language Organization.
Okay, okay. See, so first from the last thing, in Assam we have Vishnupriya Literature Society, very active, and so is true for Tripura. But in Manipur we don't have, because we have the community named Vishnupriya Manipuris. They are called Mayang, as I remember, but they don't speak. They have shifted to the Manipuri language. And Vishnupriya is a language. It is not a variety of Assamese or Bangla. And except for about, I have the list of that, except for about 4,000 words from Meitei, structure-wise, it is not related to the Meitei Manipuri language. And the present position of Vishnupriya, even according to census, it is a language. And as I said, that all languages are mother tongue. So in census, you'll find that Vishnupriya will be the language. And within that, we have two mother tongues, Vishnupriya Manipuri and Manipuri Vishnupriya, because of the intervention of the court. So that Vishnupriya should have the affix Manipuri or prefix Manipuri. So it is a language. And as I said, that it is a separate language. It has similar development at the same time when, say, Bhojpuri, Assamese, Bangla were developing. So that way it is there. And Vishnupriya is taught as a subject of instruction and even as a medium in primary classes 1 and 2 in 36 schools of Tripura. And there are 36 teachers in place. But in Assam, it is not there as of now in school education. And Manipur, no question, because there are no mother tongue speakers left, except maybe 2 or 3, as it happens in the case of, say, Nevari. We have only about 5 fluent speakers in Sikkim, although that is the official language of Sikkim, and it is taught as a second language in Sikkim, as I remember, in 5 schools perhaps. But then fluent speakers, mother tongue speakers, only about 5 are left. So they get training in Nepal, and then they come back and teach there, the developed materials. But that is a state official language. But Vishnupriya, as of now, only in Tripura, because large chunk is there, the Vishnupriya Manipuri speaker, it is used in school education. So they have a separate department for that in the government also. All right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I have missed out any question, my sincere apologies. But you can always write to Professor Mishra, who is, very cordial to, and will reply you very soon. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Professor Rao, are you there? Professor Rao? Professor Rao?
Sir, he left. I can't see him. Maybe some electric problem. He left 2 minutes back.
Professor Mishra, I may like to.
Yes, sir.
In another small discussion till Professor Rao arrives. If
Okay.
you could enumerate specifically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major in terms of priorities, what is it that CIL should do for implementation of NEP according to you? We want to take it very seriously. Your perspective, your take on that.
Okay. Now, number 1 should be that, as I said, that first narrow down the list of mother tongues that should go immediately in the school as medium of instruction, number 1. Then second will be preparation of teaching learning material in the subjects like EVS, mathematics, and some basic science. After 5, they will need it. Up to 5, you don't have separate science subject. It is included in EVS. So that is there. And third, I already have the list. I can send it to you. That out of these 350 odd mother tongues, which mother tongue will use which script, whether Roman, Devanagari, or an indigenous script. I already have a list. so that I can send you. And lastly, teacher training. Training, because in no institute, these minor tribal languages are taken care of. Even NCRT, they do not go for that. So that CIL has to do immediately. That you include. So if you are training teachers for Odia, it can also include Reli, Sambalpuri, and other mother tongues associated with it. If Bangla is there, so also include that how to develop material, how to teach, what will be the structure, and what they have to take care of. So there they can take care of Hajong, Chakma, and Rajvangshi. If they are taking, say, in WRLC, they take Marathi, then also include at the same time, you can have Gondi, you can have Bhili, you can have Paradhi, and so on, because they are not going to be very different. And lastly, that a list of cognates, like you'll find that many words that are used in schools will be similar in Tulu and Kannada. Similarly, you'll find that most of the vocabulary will be similar in Toda and Tamil. Similarly, in Reli, Sambalpuri, you'll find, or Poroja, you'll find that most of the vocabulary will be similar to standard Odia. So CIL can do it immediately. That they have been doing it, the common vocabulary, which words are similar how, in the past. At least some, I think 10 or 12 are there, like Tamil, Kannada, common thing, Odia, Hindi, etc. They are there. So that these things should be prioritized, and only CIL can do that. I tell you, you have to take help from other organizations, because it also involves pedagogy. So psychology will be there, and institutions like NCRT, because they know the pedagogy of teaching, because you are going to teach EVS, maths also through mother tongue. So it's not only the material and teachers, but other pedagogical aspects will come there, and anthropological aspects will also come. So these three have to work together. So if you can do that, this can be started immediately. That will solve the problem.
Yeah.
Is that all right, sir?
You are also aware that there is something what's happening called NISTA. NISTA, training programs.
Yes, yes.
About 32 lakh teachers in the country. That's happening. But then CIIL getting into all mother tongues as medium of instruction, and the specific role that you are trying to say that CIIL only can do this. Now, I mean, this is a need of the hour that NCRT must beseech cooperation from CIIL in its many of the things. Say, for instance, the classical languages component of NEP implementation.
Yes, yes.
They should seek CIIL's help. And they should also involve CIIL people and then the language and linguists across to get into other things. Say, like teacher training that you're talking about. NCRT does only the cascade mode of training program to the people. Subsequently, from the state, from the SRPs to the DRPs, and then the block level and cluster level, that they will have to do. That is the assumption. But this NISTA has been an exceptionally different kind of a model, where it does not believe in cascade there. It reaches up to one level, and from there, it's only in one level, it goes and reaches the teachers. So that's a beautiful model that has been adopted. But then the TLMs issue that you're talking, the teaching learning materials, which after NCF 2005 is called learning resources, not the teaching learning materials. It is learning resources. The learning resources on EVS, maths, science, I'm afraid CIL may not be able to take it up. But then when it comes to the language elements of these things, CIL can negotiate, CIL can join. And even
see, I'll tell you, see what happens in NCRT, they take care of everything. But if you look at the English and Hindi textbook, the English textbook, the first lesson begins with a poem. And that poem is actually suitable for a class 10 student, not at all for class 1. So this kind of thing, the linguists, that is where the CIL comes in. Even if it's EVS, what kind, see, many of the languages will not have use more nouns than verbs. So CIL will know that. The NCRT will not know that. They can give you that how it should be, like the activities and lesson has to be planned, fine. But what kind of language in EVS will be there? What kind of terms will be suitable? That CIL only can do, CIL people. That is what I meant. Yes, sir.
Do we have Professor Rao here, the chairperson of the session? Professor Rao, Sujoy, if you can just call him and find out if he's available.
Good, sir. I'm trying, sir.
Yeah, we have to end the session also with the chairperson's remarks. And we can't go beyond 12:45. We have other things now. 2 o'clock is our valedictory.
Sir, we are trying to get back to DG Rao. He'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay, okay. So, Professor Mishra and to all others, now, yesterday also I was making this point. Let me continue with that. In fact, this is the beginning of our consultative process for RLCs. Now, what we need to do under RLCs, what kind of changes that we have to do, what kind of consultancy, what kind of material development, what kind of roadmap that we have to have for RLC, we have now continued. Professor Mishra, it is here. I would be really requiring the help of all of you in taking RLCs with a different pace and a different gear altogether, becoming very, very relevant for our RLC intrinsic.
Yeah,
So,
one thing.
Yeah, Professor Mishra.
Yes, one thing, sir, that someone mentioned either on 17th or maybe yesterday, I forgot, that RLCs do not have to be treated something kind of say annexure or attachment to CIL.
Yeah.
This and we could not do this because of the dearth of manpower that was there, and so
same thing continues even now, unfortunately.
Right. So that idea that you bring people as say guest teachers. See, when I was there, the problem came that was merely technical and administrative. That the mandate said, or the rule said, that you bring teachers who are already working in some university, colleges, etc.
Dr.
But
Roy
then,
joined us. Dr. Roy joined us.
yes, so we made it kind of that whoever comes as a resource person becomes full-time. That these are two different things. That's why many things could not happen, but that is needed. So research, because see, they are the people who are going to implement it. So what research you do along with RLCs, then that will strengthen the learning resources preparation and also teacher preparation. If they are separated, then what will happen? The CIL will assume that this is the reality on the ground, and RLCs will be given something from top and they have to implement it. Whereas it should be the other way, from bottom, because they are dealing with the teachers. Those who get certificate diploma, they know that what is actually happening and what is needed on the ground. Sitting at CIL, you wouldn't know that. So that's why they have to, someone mentioned that, Kalika Mehta or someone, that they should be involved in all the activities. They should not be left out, that kind of, no, they are separate. No, that's why that is needed. If you can do that, whoever are there, and then take help as resource persons, no harm in someone comes, like we go and teach in some other institutes. We take classes in academic staff colleges, etc. And in some colleges, we get sometimes 500, sometimes 1,000 rupees. So no harm in that. But there should be at least 2-3 persons permanently there in the centers. That is must. Otherwise, we'll fail again. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I think I lost the Wi-Fi connection. I connected. Can I start?
Yes. Professor Rao, please, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'm
Professor.
sorry for the disruption. Yeah.
No problem, sir. Thank you, Professor Abdesh Mishra, for enlightening us about the importance of language in school education and also about the issues and the challenges. I do believe and hope that your knowledge and experience and the follow-up discussion will further contribute for the development and promoting of Indian languages, both scheduled and non-scheduled as well. Thank you, sir, once again for being with us and also for your
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, now she lost the connection.
Professor Rao?
Yeah. Yeah. So I personally thank Professor Mishra and congratulate for his analytical and distribution of the mother tongues and the languages in the country, and the concerns and the problems and issues, and how we can tackle, and the array of areas he has touched upon, the education and the script issues, dialect and mother tongue language concerns issues, and then the statistical information based on the census he has given. And now the concerns are the mainly, see, what I personally feel that they had the 4 years of experience, the heading the CAL, and interaction. I had an interaction with the various institutes, communities, and then the governments and all. But here, what I feel is it's a commitment from the one side. It should come from the lower side, ground side, and then the top at the administration. Both should come parallelly. But what I have seen, as far as the languages are concerned, it is the concerns of the community and the community leaders, and then the concerned states, and then the center. If everyone is concerned of it, I think we can definitely we can address the issues and tackle the problems amicably. And what I have seen, one example, when we have visited the Mauritius, where we have the MOU with the institute, Indira Gandhi Institute of their team, and we had interaction with the ambassador there. He called the community leaders. Of course, the community leaders, they are concerned to the languages of the Indian languages, those who are there, those communities. I think the Tamil, Telugu, and Marathi, Bhojpuri, like Urdu, and like few other community leaders, because the community leaders have taken the greater role, they are more concerned about their language development, because they have their own way, they have taken interest, and then they develop the particular language. And similarly, I feel that in Indian context also we have to come out, and the grassroots level, I think they have shown interest, and then further they should rather demand their concerns and their language issues are concerned. And here one example, of course, there are certain pockets. We also have the Indian context. I think during my directorship, we had from CAL, Professor Uma and the Gyanasundram, Professor Gyanasundram was also there. We had team visited the village where this Betakurba community was living. They requested us, they wanted a script for their language. Then when we discussed and analyzed, the Betakurba communities were present in some pockets of Tamil Nadu, some pockets in Kerala, and some Karnataka. Then they said we wanted a separate script for them. Then with a lot of interaction and discussion, and then they convinced the community leaders, we suggested you can have the script, but see, if you are in the people living in Karnataka, they should have the Kannada script. The people are living in the Tamil, they should have the Tamil script. Those who are in Kerala, they should have the Malayalam script, so that the children tomorrow, when they go to the higher classes, it is easy for them to transform into the that state language. Like if they opt the Karnataka, the Kannada script, and then when they higher classes, when they go easy, they can easily switch over to the Kannada language. Similarly, other languages also. Finally, they agreed on that. There's a lot of discussion. The whole day we spent with them, and we have dined with them. And then finally they agreed, yes, we will have this type of arrangement. Of course, after that we could not do much, but in this way we have to convince them, because otherwise they feel that their language, they should have any identity and they should have their own script and all. But we have to convince them and tell them that this is what the problems when the children will go to the higher classes and like that. So these are some of the script issues. Of course, CL has done wonderful work in over the years, but the thing is the dissemination is lost, because I tried my best to excavate the materials they developed it, but they are not traceable. Many of the materials were not traceable. They have done a tremendous work, but the materials were not properly recorded and documented and stored. This is the one of the lacuna. Otherwise, huge work was done, but that is not visible to the public or even to the institute today. If you want, many information was not available. This is, I think, my concerns. And there should be proper documentation, and then the storage of the material is very important. And we have spent the crores of rupees on that. The CL has spent it, but the material was not properly documented. That's one thing. And then yes, I also agree. Mishra said it's not the one institute can do it. We should have the collaboration with the several institutes, especially the educational institutes and the language institutes should cooperate, collaborate, and have to come out with meaningful materials should come to the language concerns. Because in this context, during my tenure, I tried to develop the 4 years integrated language education program, but I tried with the NCERT director, Professor Senapati was there. Of course, 2-3 meetings, I convinced him and principle he agreed. But when it comes to the local resources, they are not in favor, because it's the commitment they required. Because see, here we work with the institute independently. The problem is, even once I had to discuss with the then joint secretary bureau of our languages. I said, why don't you call the meeting of all the language institutes of under your bureau? That also could not happen, because there is a lot of repetition of dictionaries and then the materials, grammars, etc. Because what I do, what CL does, and Hindi institutes also do that. And CSST, I tried this, especially the dictionaries are concerned. Let us share with it. But they are adamant, and then finally CL has to develop their own translation equivalents. Especially for the translation purpose in different languages, in different disciplines. We tried, I think that is under process, going on in the CL. This is the problem with our institute as concerned. Everyone work in isolation and independently. That should not be. We should open up and collectively, if you do it, see, as Mishra mentioned it, with the CL and other education institutes, state institutes, universities, if they collaborate, and together we can do the wonderful work and contribute to the concerned languages and even the mother tongues, etc. And these are some of the concerns about the, Again, the teacher training is concerned. Yes, because I worked in the NCERT for long years, and with that experience, and I tried here my best too. These RLCs are to be reoriented, and then it is to be rather. I think they are in a dead level of. I can say that openly. But they are to be revamped, revised, revitalized, and then re-equipped and everything. In that context, I tried my best because I have the audacity and guts to talk to the secretary at that time. I said, your institution is in a dilapidated condition in all the spheres, as far as the human resources concerned and physical infrastructure is concerned. He was very much concerned. I think the then Secretary Subramaniam was immediately said, yes, what is the problem? And then I will attend it, you tell me. Then immediately I sent it. He immediately, within few months, he has sanctioned 55 crores. And now the construction, I think Professor Hernandez has mentioned it, which we brought about 55 crores they have sanctioned. The Institute at Patiala and Bhubaneswar and the Solan, the institution buildings are under construction because there are no buildings, dilapidated sheds are the rented house, it's going, and no teachers, and only the guest faculty running, and no enrollment is poor because of lack of concerns and the implementation of the 3-language formula in the country. That's what the Mishra said, but the NEP says Education Policy 86, and then the NEP 2020, NCF 2005, all the documents emphasize on the the three language implementation of three language formula and medium of instruction in the mother tongue, all these things. But we are rather, I can say, as a citizen of the country, I feel that we we have derailed, because now even if you go to even the government schools, now the enrollment has gone down drastically, and to sustain the enrollment, the state governments are also switching over to the English medium schools. That is the irony of it. I do not know how, still we have a big problem, all the things the government is concerned. The NEP is so much concerned about the mother tongue education. I think as Professor Fernandez in the mention in the introduction, he also says this AICTU has permitted the 11 engineering institutes to start their medium of instruction in their respective state languages. But we have to see that the one aspect, the availability of the textbooks. Of course, the government has given the mandate to the CAL, and this we have this national translation mission, wherein the knowledge text is to be translated, but the manual translation, our efforts are meager. But we have to go in a long way unless the government commits for this and the resources are fully available. Then that is only possible. And I think during my last part of the tenureship, the then Secretary of the School Education, I think presently also the School Education Secretary, one day he called me personally after the NEP came out. Though we are working in the same ministry, even I astonished, the secretaries do not know what are the departments, what are the institutes which are concerned to that. Of course, I appreciate the secretary. She had patiently about half an hour. She took a tutorial from me and asking about CL, what are its concerned, what it helps, what CL can help in the school education, about especially the mother tongues are concerned, and all she queried about. And then I explained all the things. So the amount of CL has done it, and it can be done, and these things as far as the that's what, unless they come out and unless we collaborate with the administration and the education institutes and the CAL and other language institutes, together we work, I think definitely we can do wonders to the mother tongues, and we can develop it. Of course, the CAL also has done a lot of mother tongues work, and then we have developed the grammars, dictionaries, and then the primers, etc. But the primers and all, but some of the tribal languages, especially, they asked me during my tenureship, and they wanted to help the development of this primers and etc. As you all know, that CL also has the resource crunch, especially the human resource crunch is so much that we cannot handle it, and we have one person and handling 10 departments, 10 jobs. And I think unless we have multiple folds of the human resources enhanced, and we cannot help to the states or the nation. And then about the script issues, I think the material is concerned, the bilingual and the multilingual. Yes, we may require especially if really we are concerned, we should have start with the bilingual material required, because the mother tongue and then the immediate state language should have the materials, especially in the primary education is concerned. These materials are developed so that the transformation of the one language, shifting one language to the other language is easy for the child. And that's why we CL also contemplating this to develop the preschool concerned materials, and where I think we had a committee in that, where I think I emphasized we should develop the bilingual material. Even I suggest some places we require the trilingual material, because the states are more concerned about in general, the public is more, parents, I mean, the parents are more concerned about the English medium and English materials and etc. That's why we suggested even some of the languages, we can have trilingual. So we should have the mother tongue, state language, and the English. That also at the initial stage of the language, trilingual materials also we can contemplate and develop it. In fact, CL and MSCO has the collaborative project, the children material, and where I think now the government of India has accepted the materials under Samagra Shiksha. They are taking the materials from many states, are procuring the bilingual materials. Where I think we had a discussion with in the CL with colleagues, and then we said that some languages they require the trilingual materials. That also I suggested we can experiment with some languages. We'll have the trilingual material so that it can be more effectively useful for them. They inculcate the reading habits of the children. In this way, we have several ways we can contribute to the nation. As a CL, one cannot do it, but in collaboration with the other educational institutes and the language institutes, especially the state concerned, I feel that the state should come forward. They should own it, their languages, their mother tongues and all. Then they can pressurize whether the CL or the government of India. Then the implementation will be easy, because as the central government, if you force it, they will not accept it. I think I know Professor Murthy also will accept me from the NCRT side. So unless when we conduct the program, we call them, they don't bother. Ask the state, they ask the demand, then they are 100% attendance. This is the same. Unless they feel it, their concern, their requirement. If request comes from the state side, and they are concerned about their languages, their mother tongue, then I think the CL or other institute, the central level or the government of India can help, and we can together, we can develop. These are some of my concerns. I thank you all for attending this great lecture. I think with this, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor D.G. Rao, sir, for your inspiring words and also your observations and suggestions. Now we have come to the end of our first session for today. We shall have a break for some time, and we meet again at 2 p.m. For the valedictory session. Please join with us. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Mr. Sir, Namaskar. Rao sir, thank you very much.
Namaskar, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please join us for the valedictory. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.